on. Here, let me pull up Monica while I'm getting Instagram here. Here we go. And Monica says she can only stay a little while driving to an appointment. Well, it's nice to have you for the amount of time that we can have you, Monica. And I actually started like 30 seconds early this week. I'm not late. I'm like 30 seconds early. Not that I'm usually late. I'm usually within a minute or two. Usually pretty good at it. So, I suddenly something got like really cold. Does that ever happen to you? Like it just like suddenly got really cold really quickly. Hello, Monique. Like it was chilly before, but now I'm like goosebumps everywhere. You guys call them goosebumps? I've heard them called other things too. And Sarah's here. We have Monica, Monique, and Sarah. Yay! So we had our morning crochet along for the Patreon patrons. We had our morning sit and stitch today. They're a different time every week. Well, they rotate first, second, third, and fourth Wednesday of the month. And every other one is the first and the third one are open to everybody, and the second and the fourth are open to Patreon patrons only. So this was the Patreon one, and we've been working on the crochet along. Um, so that was this morning. Oh, we have another comment here. Have cold flashes due to menopause medication side effects. Cold flashes. Now, I've heard of hot flashes for menopause, but not cold flashes. I have realized recently that like I usually take my medication, one of my pills. I usually take at like 1 or 2, like a little bit after lunch is when I take it usually, and I have noticed, excuse me, that I'll get really cold if it's like 3 and I haven't taken it yet. Like I just really recently put that one together. So if it's like 2 or 3 and I'm starting to get really cold, I'll be like, did I take my pill today? So no, I think this is not a suddenly being cold for that. This was just suddenly being cold because it's cold down here. Because it's spring and spring can't decide what the weather is, right? It's like spring is bipolar, man. So anyway, well, while we're waiting for everybody to show up, I have a really cute story for you, okay? And I try not to be that I'm just going to tell cute stories about my husband all the time, lady, because that's just kind of rude. But I have to tell you this one. Uh, a couple nights ago, Doug and I were watching TV, and there was this commercial that came on that was it was a Kit Kat commercial, and there was a parent and a teen boy, and the parent was telling the teen to do the chores, and the teen was like, I'm taking a Kit Kat break, and the parent's like, well, who's gonna do the chores? And like these 4 men in brown suits just poof appear, right? And they're like, he's taking a Kit Kat break, and the parents, who's gonna do the chores? And then poof, vacuums appear in front of the 4 men, and they're vacuuming the house, right? And so I look at Doug and I'm like, okay, honey, you need to buy me some Kit Kats so that men in brown suits will appear and clean my house. He's like, what? Because he wasn't paying attention to the commercial. I'm like, wait, did you see the commercial? He's like, no. I'm like, you need to watch the commercial. So he rewinds to watch the commercial. And I'm like, see, you need to buy me Kit Kats so that men in brown suits will appear and clean the house. So I get up this morning and I go and I get into the living room, and sitting on top of my computer in the living room is this, which is a Kit Kat. Okay, that's a Kit Kat right there. And the little note that you probably can't read. Okay, no, there's no way. I'm going to read it to you. It says, have a good day. Let me know if men in brown suits show up. So, yeah, he gave me a Kit Kat. I haven't opened it yet because I wanted to show you guys, and I thought that maybe a Kit Kat for breakfast was maybe not the most responsible thing. But I'll open it later, and I'm really hoping for those men in brown suits to show up and clean my house like they did on the commercial. But yeah, isn't that cute? Let me know if men in brown suits show up with the vacuums to clean the house. That would be awesome. Wouldn't that be great? Like you get to have a Kit Kat and somebody shows up and cleans your house. And obviously the commercial works because my husband went out and bought me a Kit Kat just so that men in brown suits would show up to clean my house. So there you go. And Sarah says that makes sense to her. And Monique says it's super sweet. I agree. And chocolate, yes, add chocolate and people cleaning. I like exactly. So I mean, what could be better? I get chocolate and crunchy, and somebody else cleans my house. I mean, like, really, heaven, right? All right, so there we go. That was my little like morning cuteness from the hubby there. Um, yeah, these are reasons why we keep him around because it's just it is really it's those like sweet little things that just like say I love you. That's just adorable. All right, so let's see. It is spring, and spring is very bipolar as far as weather goes. So you're never quite sure what to make. But I have, excuse me, I have recently added. Let me find the share screen one. Here we go. We've recently added some more patterns to the Crochet Foundry pattern database. So they are it's let's see sort by date new to old. There we go. So you can see over here when you go to Crochet Foundry, if you're on a laptop, if you're on a computer or laptop, whatever, there's the menu up here. If you're on a mobile device, this is the hamburger menu. Those three little lines on the side, you click on them and it opens up the menu. um, and then under patterns and more, you can choose crochet patterns, knit patterns, and printables, which I think there's only like a couple, but there will be more of these coming. And this signature style printables goes along with a 3-part article um, that was in the March issue, is in the issue coming out in this Friday, and then will be in the next issue, and is also eventually going to be on the website, and it's available also for the Patreon patrons. And this is just the printables that go with that if you want to actually use them. But there will be more printables coming here. So when you're on the patterns, you can see there's a couple ways to sort them. You can filter them by price, by designer, or various other things. I think I showed you that last week. You can also sort them. I think I have it set to default to best selling. You can do alphabetically, price, and date. So if you're like, oh, if you look at these a lot and you want to see the new ones, you can do date, new to old. And so that's a good way to see what I've added in recently. And I still have like, I think about 20 more patterns I need to add in that have been submitted from my independent designer people, right? And guys, if you are an independent pattern designer, um, underneath about, there is IDP, that stands for Independent Designer Patterns or Independent Designer Program. I don't know, one of them. I keep saying one or the other, and I really don't remember which one I named. It works either way. And submit a pattern. You click on that, and it lets you sign up for the. I use an app that it filters. It takes the money and it figures out the percentage that goes to you and the percentage that goes to me, and it pays you once a month, and it gives you the stats so you can see which patterns sold and all of that sort of stuff. So it's a really, really nice app. Um, so you have to sign up for that first. Excuse me. You have to do that first. and you basically just fill in a form that tells me that you want to be an independent, want to be part of the independent designer program, and I have the app send you an invite. You fill that in, and as soon as you've got it filled in and you put in your payment information so that you can actually be paid, that is when I'll start putting up your patterns. And then there's a different form you fill in to submit your patterns, okay? But I won't post any patterns of yours until I know you can be paid. I just don't want to have to deal with the holding on, the you making money that I can't pay you thing is never fun. So if you want to have your patterns listed here, that's how you do that. And all the information is there under About, IDP, Independent Designer Program, Submit a Pattern. All right, so you can totally do that. Submit a design is if you want to submit designs to Crochet Foundry. So you can always sign up there. That puts you on the newsletter list, not the newsletter list, that puts you on the mailing list for whenever I send out the uh, design calls for the magazine. All right. Um, so yeah, we have crochet patterns and knit patterns. Here we've got them. I'm sorting them new to old, so you can see some of the new ones. This is an entire collection of granny squares, different kinds of floral granny squares, which is super fun for spring, right? Here, and then we also have knit patterns. And not as many of those. The other one, what was the other? How many were on the other one? Was it $199 or $299? We currently have 199 crochet patterns. And then for knit patterns, we currently have 31. So, but again, like I said, this is constantly growing. So if we do new to old, yeah, there's not right now, most of the patterns are mine and Hortense's. Hortense is knitting with chopsticks. She has knit and crochet patterns both. And she is absolutely an awesome lady. I love her so much. I met her and her mom both last year, and they are both very cool. So yeah, so you can find whatever patterns, and like that one, I have it. It defaults when you do it to best selling, so you can see what people are buying. But like I said, you can change the way that it's sorted, and of course, you can change your designer. Okay, we have 3 people designing in knit. We also have Christico Designs. Christico Design, which is Krista Marin, I believe. Yeah, here we go. Crystal Marin. There we go, right there. Me and Hortense from Knitting with Chopsticks. But then within our crochet patterns, we have a lot of designers. Look at that. Lots of designers under here. And like I said, if you are a designer and if you are an independent designer and would like to share your patterns here, you can go ahead and apply here. And once you actually have everything set up properly so that you can be paid is when I'll start posting your patterns. And basically the main rule is they better be patterns that work. All right. I'm not going to take any AI pictures, any AI images. I'm not going to take I check to make sure you're an actual real designer with actual real patterns and everything. I haven't had to turn away anybody. But I do check to make sure that the designer if I haven't heard of them, I check to look them up, make sure they're a real designer, check out their like reviews or comments or whatever, make sure that everything looks good. And then if I were to get people complaining, saying, these patterns, they're not written well, whatever, I would talk to the designer. I like I said, I haven't had to turn anybody down. I haven't had to remove any patterns or kick anybody out or anything. But just know as a customer that I check things out beforehand, and I'm very cautious to make sure that I'm not going to put something here that's going to be a bad pattern. And if I do discover that we have, people let me know, customers let me know that these patterns, certain patterns, aren't written well, there's lots of problems, whatever, I'll talk to the designer. Sometimes there's You know, sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, I gave you the draft PDF instead of the final PDF. That was before I sent it to the tech editor or whatever. You know, there might be a real legit reason and we can fix it, or it might be that at some point maybe somebody will slip in that isn't good at writing patterns or whatever, in which case I will do what it takes to make things cool with the customers. And if I find that I have a designer selling patterns that aren't good quality, then, you know, I would obviously remove those patterns and everything. Thankfully, everybody's been awesome so far, so I haven't had that worry. But I just want you to know, as designers, I want you to know that you will be up here with other designers who are legit good designer, who are legit, you know, designing and putting out patterns that work and everything. I'm not going to go, ooh, I like this pattern, so I'll put this one up, but I don't like this hat pattern, so I'm not going to put that up. That's not what I'm talking about at all. I just want to make sure that if somebody looks at this pattern and says, ooh, I really like, you know, this is a really cool little hoodie. It looks, and I love this thing. This is adorable. And it, I mean, it's really cute, and you know, it's got lots of sizes of it. It's got a nice variety of sizes going on, and it's got, you know, I'm like, I love this. It's really cute, but that doesn't matter. I'm not going to go here and just, what's important to me is that when somebody says, ooh, I love this, and they buy it, that if they make the smallest size or the largest size or the size in the middle, it works. That the pattern does actually create the thing that they say it's going to create, and that you can follow the pattern and get the results that you're supposed to get. Okay, so that's what's important to me. And if I have a customer telling me that's not what happened, I am going to reach out to the designer, because I do know, as somebody who's a designer as well, that I've had people who have reached out to me and said, your pattern sucks, it's the wrong size. And I'll be like, okay, well, let me know what were the measurements of the person you were making it for, what size did you make, and what yarn did you use. And they'll come back and they used a DK yarn for a pattern that required a bulky weight yarn. But they made the size that was listed in the pattern for the correct measurements. So they did everything right, except for they used the completely wrong size yarn, which gave them the completely wrong gauge. And they're like, oh, well, I started using the size hook that you said, or in that case it was needles. I started using the size needles that you said, but the stitches were just way too loose. It was just really, it looked messy, which is what happens when you use a hook or needles that are way too big for your yarn, right? So I had to go down to a smaller size yarn, a smaller size hook, so that the stitches didn't look so messy. And I'm like, well, you used a smaller yarn and a smaller hook, so of course the finished project was too small. So yes, if I get complaints about one of your patterns, I am going to reach out to you and, you know, to figure out what's going on, to figure out if it was a designer a designer / pattern writer error, or if it was a user error. Okay. And we'll go for that. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes it can be something as simple as they caught the typo that you missed. Or, I mean, I've had patterns that have gone through tech editors and been made, like this pattern right here, the high tide square. It was the first pattern of the Moogly cow this year, and it had probably been made hundreds of times before somebody found a typo. It had been written, tech edited. I made it like 3 times, okay, because that's the process when I make one of the Moogly squares. Is the first time I make it, you know, make sure the pattern is written correctly. Then I make it again a second time to make the video tutorial, and then I make it a third time to make the photos that go with it. And by then I know the pattern is really good. And I do that as like a paranoid thing I do specifically with the Moogly square, because it gets made so many times within the first few days of being out that I do not want it to have an error. And then, you know, and then it's been tech edited, and then it had been made hundreds of times because somebody found or pointed out a typo in there, that everybody else, I think, had just like fixed without thinking about it. Because it just made sense to do this thing because you had been like on a roll. But like sometimes that happens. And once it was pointed out, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I fixed it in the post. I fixed it in the PDF. I changed the PDFs everywhere where the PDFs were, all of that sort of stuff. I get it. I totally get it. I try to be fair to everybody. And what's important to me is that customers are getting what they are paying for, and designers are being given the benefit of the doubt and being treated well. Monique says, yes, there's incredible pattern support. Anything, I can't promise you incredible pattern support from the individual designers on the independent designer program. But I do ask, if you have a problem with a pattern, even if it's not a Crochet Foundry pattern, even if it's just an independent designer pattern, um, obviously your first bet, the first thing you want to do is reach out to the designer. They're going to be the best person to help you, is the actual designer. But if you got the pattern either from the magazine or from our patterns listed here for sale on Crochet Foundry, and you reached out to the designer and you weren't able to get help, then go ahead and reach out to me. You can do that. The best way to do that is on Patreon. You can sign up for Patreon for free. Here, actually, let me open an incognito window so that you'll see it. You'll see it the way that you see it, not the way that I see it. That's not it. It's Patreon. There, it's at the Foundry, but that little C thing should not be there. Okay, so there we go. There's a join for free, okay? And if you join for free, you can still, and so it's patreon.com/@the-foundry. If you join for free, there's all these different chats, okay? And these 3 chats, the Crochet Foundry General Chat, the Socialized Chat, and the Jessie at Home General Chat, are all free to join. You don't have to spend any money, you just join. This Crochet Foundry Chat is probably the best place to ask questions. If you have any questions about any of the patterns on Crochet Foundry and you weren't able to get help from the individual designer, okay? Because if you're not able to get help from the designer, I or the other people on Patreon will do our best to help you. Even better than just ask, if you ask there and then you say, hey, I will be at this sit and stitch, and you let us know which sit and stitch you're going to be at, then I can help you in person on the Zoom sit and stitch. And the Zoom sit and stitches can be found under community. There's an event calendar and you can see them all, okay? And every other one, it says specifically, so at the Foundry evening sit and stitch, that's at the Foundry, so that's free to everybody. This one says, if it says patron, then it's only for people who have a paid Patreon. So that one was this morning, and that was just for the paid people. Next week is at the Foundry afternoon sit and stitch, so that one is anyone can join. Then the following week is a patron one. Okay, and then there happens to be 5 Fridays this month, and so the 5th Friday there is not a sit and stitch, because Wednesdays. The 5th Wednesday we don't have one because it's the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Wednesday. 1st and 3rd are open to everybody. 2nd and 4th are open to patrons only. So, you let me know which one you're going to be at, and I will be totally prepared to answer the question. Like if there's some specific stitch you want to learn or something like that, if you let me know ahead of time in the free chats on Patreon, so you don't have to be a paid member. If you let me know ahead of time in those free chats on Patreon, and then let me know which sit and stitch you're going to be at. If you are not a paid member, make sure it's one of the at the Foundry ones, not one of the patron ones. Then I will be sure to be prepared to answer that question, which means You know, if I need to have an overhead camera set up to show you so you can see my hands and what I'm creating, I'll do that. If you need to, you know, whatever I need to be able to help you, I'll make sure that that I have. Okay, so that is all. You know, that I want to be able to help you with things. If it's any of the patterns that are available through Crochet Foundry, I do have access to the actual patterns, to the PDFs of the patterns, so I can see. You know, it wouldn't be right for me to like make up one of these patterns without paying the designer to buy it. But I feel like if they're going to sell it on my site, if I'm going to if I'm going to help them by giving them free pattern support, I don't feel bad like actually opening up the PDF and looking at it to help the person who did pay for it, you know, have a better experience. So, um, you know, but if I were like, ooh, I want to make this dress for myself, I would totally go ahead and buy it because that would be, you know, that would be the ethical thing to do. But if I'm just giving pattern support, um, I feel fine going in and looking at their PDFs there. Um, so yeah, so that's all of that. And like I said, we have new patterns, and I'm still constantly adding new patterns. This coming Friday, so like in 2 days, is the next issue of Crochet Foundry. All right, and it's actually the April/May issue. There are, I want to say there are 8 patterns in there. There's a decent number of nice, really nice. They're all great patterns. They're mostly garments. There's a really cool bag in there, guys. I love the bag. It was actually, when I put out the design call, I don't remember if it was the first proposal that I got in for that design call, but it was definitely the first one that I fell in love with. Like, it was the first one that like I remember seeing. I opened it up and I was like, this is so cool. Because here, I'll give you a little secret about the April/May issue. There were kind of 2 themes that are combined since it was 2 issues. The theme that the bag was sent in for was that were the patterns all had to be made out of rectangles. And yes, a square is a rectangle. Oh, Monica has reached her destination and is going. Bye-bye, Monica. We'll see you next week. We'll talk to you next week and hopefully see you next week. I'm glad you got there safely and get home safely when you're done. And I hope your appointment goes well. Um, so yeah, so the theme that the bag was for was rectangles, where everything all of the parts of the pattern had to be made out of rectangles. So and yeah, squares are obviously rectangles as well. So I think it's 8 patterns actually. Of the 8 patterns in this upcoming issue of Crochet Foundry, 7 of them are made entirely out of rectangles. That are then joined in whatever sort of way, and most of them are like an easy kind of skill level. So this bag, it's a pretty easy skill level. It's made out of all rectangles, and they're then joined together. But the stitch pattern that Rachel used, and just everything about it, it's so, I just really like the bag. I don't know, I fell madly in love with it when I saw it, when I saw the proposal, and then when she sent it, I really liked it. You know, the tech editors had a really easy time tech editing it because it was well written. And then Rachel showed up on one of our sit and stitch last week, and she turned out to be really cool, which just makes me love it even more. Rachel Weisz is the name of the designer, not to be confused with the actress, who is also seems to be pretty awesome. Well, she's awesome as an actress. I have no idea what she is as a human being, but I like her as an actress. But still not the same Rachel Weisz. So yeah, so that one is super fun. But there's most of the patterns, like I said, are made out of squares and other rectangles that have been joined together to create whatever you're going to create. And then the other theme that's also, because like I said, it was 2 months combined, the other theme that's also in there is transformations, where the the design can either be, it can either, while you're making it, you have options as to like, do I want to make it this way or that way? You know, do I want it to be a top, or do I want it to be a dress, or do I want it to be, that sort of thing, where you make the decisions when you're making it. And then some of the other ones are transformation, as in there's different ways to wear it, or parts that come on or off. So it's a transforming piece where it can be worn. It can show, you can style it or wear it in different ways to make it something kind of new, or change for the weather or the event or whatever. So those are the two themes that are both represented within the April/May issue, since I combined the two issues, and that will be out on Friday. So I'm really excited about that one. I think you guys are gonna love it. Um, and then next month in May will be our very first seasonal issue, and that will be the summer issue. And then after that, our magazines will be coming out every 3 months, because they'll all be seasonals. All right. So let's see, any more comments or questions? Let me just scroll through Instagram here, and we just have people joining. We do not have comments or questions. And I think I got all of these. You see, it's because it's cold. Like I said, it's cold down here. I yawn when I'm cold. And I'm also tired. So you add the two of those together, man. All right, let's see. I don't think I need to continue sharing my screen here with you. I forgot I was doing that. All right. So, I don't know. I think this might be a short one today. Yeah, I think we're gonna be a short one today. Just like I said, we had the little sit and stitch earlier, and yeah, we have with spring. It's hard to know what to crochet at spring, right? What about you guys? Hold on. Um, even though the magazine is going seasoning, will there still be lunch with the Foundry every Wednesday? Yes, lunch with the Foundry will still happen every Wednesday at noon Eastern. There will, on occasion, if I'm not around, I try to have one or more of my mods do the lunch with the Foundry, so that it still happens every week. If there's a week where it's not going to happen, we'll make sure to let you know. Like, hopefully we'll be able to let you know the week before, and we'll put up a little post to let you guys know that it's not happening. But if I'm not around, I try to make sure that one of the mods can at least do the lunch with the Foundries. Sometimes the sit and stitches, that we have on the first 4 Wednesdays of every month, if I'm not around, those usually end up getting canceled. Though I am thinking about seeing if I might talk to my mods about, if they can do those too. We'll see. Let's see. Oh, we have Susan here. Susan says it's cold too, and she's trying to get over a cold. Make winter into spring's items. Yes, and that's the thing with spring. With spring items, they're really like, it's layers. Spring items are layers, or things that work well with layers. So if it's like a cute spring dress, it's like a cute, like, sleeveless or short sleeve spring dress that works really well with a jacket or a shawl or something like that, so that you can layer, so that when the spring weather decides to be bipolar, you can deal with it. Sometimes it's going to be an entire day that's lovely, beautiful weather, and you can wear the little, strappy dress the entire day and not have to worry about it, or like tank tops and shorts or whatever. But then sometimes even just within a day, the weather can just go totally nuts. Mainly abandon your winter sweater whips except on colder days. And that's the other thing. It's like, not only are you crocheting for the season, but it's like, when the weather gets warm, you don't want to be crocheting a, wool blanket on your lap. Susan, yes, layers like vests and shawls. Totally. Layers are awesome, and crochet and knit are great for layers because they make wonderful outerwear. And then if you use like a nice, lighter weight yarn and smaller hook, you can even make wonderful the inside layer, the first layers are on top of your undergarments layer, main layer, I guess would be what you would call that. Hi, I used to be a costume designer. I should really be able to I should have better vocabulary for clothing. So, yes. All right. Yeah. So yeah, for like I said, for spring, not only are you thinking about what you want to be creating to wear in the spring and like in the summer and stuff, but also it's like, do I really want to have a wool blanket or acrylic blanket sitting on my lap as I'm crocheting? Do I want this in my arms? Do I want to be touching this yarn? you know, like let's take out the like linen or bamboo, like DK or sport weight yarn and make like some nice little lightweight item so that I can wear it and so that it's not making me die of heat stroke while I'm creating it because, my house is cooled by ceiling fans, not by air conditioning because my house is old and it's not suited for air conditioning units. I need to get those like the wall units, like the big Mitsubishi or whatever the wall units that do all the heating and cooling. But having those installed is like a lot, a lot of money. You people need to buy a lot more magazines if I want to have air conditioning in my house. Oh, I am so with you, Susan. I'd rather have I'd rather have to take things off rather than needing to add things. Yeah, it's nice to be able to like shed some layers and like get a nice little and feel nice and comfortable. Though when it comes right down to it, if like at a certain point you can't shed anything else because it's not legal to walk around naked and because you can't shed your skin. So like if it's hot enough that like no layers at all is still I'm still too hot, I'm not okay with that. Whereas like in the winter you can at least just keep piling on blankets to eventually you get to a point where you're fine, right? Of course, but then you're totally not productive because you're totally not productive if I'm way too hot because then I can't touch yarn at all. Or but even if I'm too hot, I'm just like if I am dripping some ice in the tub and a little bit of water and just sit. There's a certain point where it's just too hot to think, and then there's a certain point where it's too cold to function. So it's like why I live in a place that does both. I'm really not sure, but I do. But yeah, you find the right pattern for you and the right yarn for you for whatever your weather is. Um, and we do. That's one of the nice things about. Oh, I'm not on my screen sharing here. That's one of the nice things, with our magazines. We try to keep them, appropriate to whatever the season is. When with the monthly issues, they're still appropriate, and then, back to when we had the seasonal issues before, and now that we're going back to them again, the seasonal issues. Where do they start? Here we go. Back here. The seasonal issues do, again, work with the actual season. So this one was a spring, and you can see there's like lightweight tops and there's layers. And then we have a tank top there. I try to point to it, and when I try to point to it here, I'll just open it up. When I thought I opened it, maybe not. So we have like the kind of tank top with the dropped little lacy sleeves. And then some layers, another nice lightweight top, nice layers, all of that sort of thing. And this even has, look at the socks, the fun socks. Oh my goodness. Who did those socks? I don't know. It's not going to tell me. So yeah, and then we have, again, different seasons. They follow whatever the patterns work for that season. So that's kind of, going back to the seasonal model. And that will keep us able to do more of the community aspects that I haven't been able to spend as much time on um, because I've been, working on a magazine every single month. So now that we're going back to seasonal, I'll have more time for that. What type of yarn do you recommend for spring? I really like, I'm a big fan of bamboo yarns and linen yarns. Like, I really like those. Um, I like, I like the way they feel, like when I'm wearing them. I like the way they move. Um, I love that bamboo is such a sustainable product. That's wonderful. Um, I like the cotton ones too, depending on what kind of cotton and what you're making it with, like what you're making with it. I'm losing my English. If you're getting in cotton yarn, I mean, with any yarn, obviously you want to like have an idea of what the finish yarn is like. But like with cotton, you can get cotton yarns that are like silky smooth, like the embroidery floss, or you can get cotton yarns that are like a kitchen cotton that are great for kitchen cottons. But that would be like a t-shirt made out of a kitchen cotton. It's not going to look as nice, and it's not going to be as cool and have as much movement as a shirt made out of like a mercerized cotton that is also it's going to be a little thinner, like maybe a DK or a sport weight. It's got a nice finish to it. It has more movement to it. So you want to pay attention to those things. Like, I always associate spring and summer items with a movability, like the drape of the finished piece. It like blows gracefully in the wind, kind of thing. Um, so I like yarns that will do that, both because they're a lighter weight, like a DK or a sport. A lighter weight does not need to mean lace weight. Um, and because of the way that the yarn is made. So yeah, I love, like I said, I love linen and bamboo yarns, and then certain cotton yarns. You just make sure you have a really good idea of what the yarn itself, like, especially with the cotton, because there's such a vast difference in the way that and what the finished product is like, depending on how the cotton yarn is made. Um, so pay attention to that. If it's referred to in any way as a kitchen cotton, then it's probably not great for garments, but it is great for, baskets and washcloths and that sort of thing. Um, Whereas, some of the different finishes and different manufacturing techniques are better for the garments that you want to make. Right? You don't If you're going to make a basket, you don't want to make it out of a yarn that like flows really nicely, because the basket's not going to have any stability to it, right? But if you make it out of a kitchen cotton, it'll have a stability to it. You make it out of kitchen cotton, you use maybe a one size small crochet hook, and it'll be nice and stiff and it'll hold its shape and be exactly what you want it to be. So, just you want to pay attention to those things. But I like yarns and stitches that flow in the wind for spring. Um, I just happen to think that flowing in the wind is very sexy and cute and fun. Monique says, what you use for your washcloths, the Bernat cotton, you don't think you'd want to wear that. Exactly. And that's not saying something bad about the yarn. That's saying you want to know what the yarn is good for. Not every yarn works for everything. When people say this is a kitchen cotton, there's a reason they say that. Okay, they're not saying this is a t-shirt cotton. They're not saying this is your formal dress wear cotton. No, this is your kitchen cotton because you're using it for your kitchen accessories. Not because, it's cheap and you don't care if you end up washing a dish with it, but because it's perfect for that item. So, yeah, elegant. There we go. That's more of what I was trying to say about the things that blow in the wind. Flowy is so elegant. It really is. And I just feel when I'm wearing something that like flows in the wind, when a gust of wind comes by, and my long vest catches the breeze and flows behind me, I feel very elegant and attractive and cool. I feel very cool. Both physically and stylistically. I feel very cool when the wind blows my garment. As long as it doesn't do a Marilyn Monroe, then I feel very Marilyn. All right. I think we are good for the day. So definitely on Friday is our April-May issue of Crochet Foundry, and I think it is pretty darn amazing with lots of really, really cool patterns. All right. Um, what is this? When you spoke up, yeah, I do definitely put a lot of my personality into the things that I say. All right, kiddos. I am going to get going. Thank you so much for joining me. Have fun crocheting and creating for spring, and definitely grab the April May issue when it is released on Friday. And I will talk to you all again at the same time next week. We already had today's sit and stitch, it was a morning one. So I will not see you later today. I will see you on Wednesday. Thank you. Have a great day from Monique. Have a wonderful week. Excuse me, from Sarah. And I'm going to go enjoy my lunch. So thanks, fam. It was good seeing you all. And we'll talk again next week. Bye bye.